Hi, I'm Alejandria, and I'm a Teen Services Librarian at the Kenosha Public Library.
Hi, I'm Susannah Gilbert. I'm also a Teen Services Librarian at the Kenosha Public Library.
Hi, I'm Megan, and I am an early literacy specialist at the library.
All right, and today we are doing YA all day because we could read YA all day, and some days that's what we would prefer to be doing. Today, well, I should say this month, we're kind of focusing on Native American Heritage Month, so we've decided to read books that are by Indigenous authors to share with you today. There's a lot of lovely choices out there, so it's a little hard to pick a couple, but I think we've got a couple of good varying things to talk about today, and I'm going to go ahead and start today. So I read, well, I almost just grabbed the book, but instead I will lay it in there so you don't get any glare off of it after in editing. So I read the book Surviving the City, Volume 1, which indicates there is a Volume 2. It's a graphic novel, so it's, if you're not familiar with graphic novels, that means that they're kind of like a longer comic book. So the author is named Tasha Spillett, and she is Nehiyaw, so like a Cree and Trinidadian, and she's an educator, poet, scholar, and of course an author. And the person who did the illustrations, or sometimes called sequential art when we're talking about graphic novel style, is named Natasha Donovan, and she is a member of the Metis Nation, and she also has some art in the collection, This Place, 150 Years Retold, which is another graphic novel that you might be interested in if you like her work. So this story, I'm just going to really quickly grab the cover because I think it's really pretty. Centers on two friends, and their names are Miquan and Des. Miquan is Anishinaabe, and Des is Inninew. I'm going to write these all on the screen in case I am mispronouncing anything, because that is very possible. So they're best friends, and they both have their own struggles being Indigenous people who are living in a city, and they still have kind of some source of joy and refuge in their friendship together and their family and in their culture as well. However, one day Des finds out that her grandma's really not doing too well, and she lives with her grandma, so it turns out she might actually have to move into like a group home, and that's something obviously I don't think anybody would want to do. So she decides that instead of going home and kind of like talking to the social worker and getting sent to a group home, she decides that she is instead going to just kind of not go home and just go somewhere else for the evening. And this is kind of a little bit traumatic for Miquan because not only is her friend missing and not answering her phone or anything, but it turns out that her mother is actually one of the women who has gone missing and disappeared. So it's kind of re-traumatizing for those reasons. I think that the story alone is very strong, but it's also got a lot of history and a lot of real issues that are going on. Like it centers on the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls and Two-Spirit people. But it also focuses on the Indigenous women and Two-Spirit led movements against the violence. So there's a lot that you learn, not just from the book, but the author has some pretty short notes in the background, in the back of the book. And I also learned what berry fasting is from this book, which I didn't know before, and it doesn't explain fully, so it kind of makes you do your own research. So it was a really good learning experience. So I highly recommend this. Very short also, like not going to take you very long to read it all. Volume 2 hopefully will be on our shelves in a couple months.
Awesome. So the book that I read this month is called Elatsoe. That's another one we're going to have up here. Picture, cover, title, all that. And the author's name is Darcie Little Badger. The main character in Elatsoe, whose name is Elatsoe, but everybody calls her Ellie. She and the author are both Lipan Apache. So they're native people indigenous to like northern Mexico and the southern United States. So Ellie's family lives in Texas for the most part. So she lives in kind of a version of our world. This is a fantasy, but it's a fantasy that blends our contemporary world where everybody has an iPhone to a world where everybody is just really used to the fact that there are fairies and vampires, and Ellie has a inherited family skill that she can raise and train the ghosts of animals. So her constant companion is the ghost of her childhood dog, Kirby. So it's a fantasy, but it's also a mystery because as the story begins, Ellie has just found out that her cousin Trevor has died. And it looks like he's died in a car accident, but then Ellie has a dream where Trevor speaks to her and tells her that he was murdered. So the rest of the book is about her exploring what happened to him, trying to figure that out. She enlists the help of a fairy and a psychic and all sorts of fun side characters, as well as her family. And it's a really cool weaving together of some native stories from Ellie's family. She has a ancestor that they call Sixth Great, who's her sixth great grandmother, who had sort of a much more magnified version of the powers that Ellie has now. So there's a lot of stories about her that are woven through as well. I really loved this one. I think it would be a great pick for anybody who likes mysteries, who likes contemporary fantasy, or who's interested in hearing some pretty great stories.
That sounds like a really good one, actually.
I think you'd really like it.
Do you think it's a standalone, or do you think it's going to be the start of?
I think it's a standalone.
Okay.
But I'm really excited to see. Darcie Little Badger has written some short fiction previously, but I believe this is her debut novel. So I'm really excited to see what she does next.
I thought I saw that she was also a comic book writer. Like she's written maybe some comics. I'm really interested.
She also has a PhD in oceanography, and so there's all this cool stuff about like trilobites and like megalodons and stuff, because that's just happens to be something that Ellie is also interested in. So lots of good stuff.
Okay, so my book this month is Apple in the Middle by Dawn Quigley. This is more contemporary fiction, realistic fiction. It's about a girl named Apple, and she was named by her mother, and it was meant to be like, apple of her eye. But it's also used as a slur against her because Apple is Indian, and so they use it as red on the outside, white on the inside. Her mom had died when she was very young, and so she was living with her dad and her stepmom. Things weren't going so great, so her dad decides that he's going to send her to the reservation, Turtle Mountain Indian Reservation in North Dakota, to live with her family. And so the story is kind of about how her summer, her life on the reservation, and what she learns about her cultural background. So it's a really solid, realistic fiction, average life of a teenager who happens to be Native American. So
definitely can never have enough great contemporary stories.
No, I think contemporary stories are probably like one of my recent favorites. Like I'm just kind of on a contemporary kick right now. I don't know what it is about it. It's just, I think that relatability is just really, really awesome and almost comforting in a way. So
I think Surviving the City was pretty much contemporary, although you will see in the beautifully illustrated pages that there are also spirits walking around among everybody, which they're just there. So there's a little bit of other worldly sort of like has been blended with the world of living people. So yeah, sounds like some really good picks. I'm really excited to read Debbie Little Badger's. This is Debbie, right?
Darcie
Little Badger. I will fix that here. Because I always gravitate towards the fantasy, but I think Apple in the Middle is also a very strongly going to be on my to-be read list as well. Okay. Oh, you know what I forgot to mention? I forgot to say that we do have a blog post that will have a lot more information on other books that you might like, a lot more books than we can talk about in like 15 minutes. As well as we have some displays and all of our branches that have some books that you might want to check out, as well as some displays that have some information on Indigenous authors that if you read them and you tell us about them, you might get a little prize. Who doesn't like a little prize? All right, so I think we're gonna sign off then. Bye.
Bye.